Hi, I'm so excited. I hope to see lots of little emojis floating up because people are able to watch. I know that 8 to 9 o'clock is probably the most popular time for people to hop onto Facebook. So fingers crossed we'll actually be on at the same time for a change. Tonight we're talking about foundation, how to prep, how to apply. Particularly, I'm going to focus on applying with a sponge, which is all the rage right now, and setting and finishing. We are not going to be covering undertone or choosing your the coverage or the type of foundation, so to speak. That's something more that we would discuss one-on-one, which I love to do. So let's do that anytime. But we're just going to be focusing more on the application, the hows and whys, and that kind of thing. And stop right there. If you are the one that thinks, I don't like foundation, I don't use foundation, I don't like how it feels, and I'm going to, do something else, I don't want to watch this. No. Foundation, if you are feeling like it's heavy on your skin or that you can feel it and you don't like how it looks, it makes you look orange, etc., I'm telling you straight up, it's because you are having, you had one on that was the wrong, it was like for the wrong, let's see, how do I want to say it? You probably had a foundation that was for dry skin and that was like a real heavy coverage. And if that is not what you need, then that is going to feel heavy on your skin. Also, if it doesn't match your skin tone, then it's not going to flatter you. And then that just gives you a kind of a negative feeling overall about foundation. And I've heard it so many times. But foundation today is fabulous. I mean, there are so many to choose from. And now they also have other benefits like age fighting factors, and they can add luminous effects or mattifying, and there's just so much out there. So you really want the benefit of a foundation. So keep an open mind. And so I guess that brings us to, why do we want a foundation? Foundation basically is just giving us an even canvas to work with. If you think back to what your skin looked like when you were 14 and it was all the same color, you didn't have, ruddiness and discoloration, and we also didn't have like the lines and wrinkles and things like that. So we are looking for an even, smooth canvas to work with, and that's the goal of our foundation. So speaking of that, anybody that comments or likes or asks a question tonight, we'll put all those names in a drawing tonight for the foundation of your choice. So I hope that we'll get some interaction going tonight as the evening goes on. If I'm not able to answer your question, right now, that's because I really want to stay on time and keep this brief. Fingers crossed. Not my strong suit. We're going to try to keep it brief. But I will answer you. I'll probably send you a private message or something. And then also I was thinking that if you do want to talk about undertone in a future tutorial, that is kind of fun. Like we could have a live model or something and we could just kind of talk about the concept of it and then have that done, I just think that would be kind of cool. But that's just a thought. Okay, moving on. We are going to jump right into our prep step. Makeup artists love foundation primer, and yet 74% of women do not use it. Mary Kay has a fabulous foundation primer, and it has SPF 15. The primer is, of course, preparing your face for the foundation. It gives the foundation something to hold on to, so it's like a magnet for the foundation, similar to your eye primer, your lip primer. But it also has light diffusing stuff. I don't know what it's called, but it gives your face like a soft focus, like a soft light effect. And it also fills in any ridges, any imperfections on your face, so minor scars, fine lines and wrinkles, just the ridges from like blemish scars and things like that. So it's doing so many things. It also mattifies, it absorbs oil. So talk about a multi-function product. I mean, this is really a fantastic product. It's a gel. You really don't need to use very much. I use about a pea-size amount. I don't know if you can see that, boy, that light is so bright. You see that? And so it says online that this tube would last 1 to 2 months. For me, it lasts a lot longer than that because I use such a small amount. Maybe I use such a small amount because I'm not terribly oily. I don't know. So obviously that's going to depend on how much you use. So I took off, I had a full face on, but I washed everything off except my eyes and my lips. So I've got a bare face. So I don't know if you can see, but you know, I've got, you know, my bags under my eyes. I've got some freckles. I've got a blemish. I've got all kind of stuff going on that you're going to see. And I look shiny because I have my moisturizer and my eye cream on, but nothing else. So I'm just starting with the primer and just kind of dot it all over, and you just rub it in. There's no method. You just want to rub it in. It's a gel, and as it dries, it feels like a powder. It really feels nice. And if you can, you know, after you rub it in, if you still feel it, I think you've got too much, which is why I just use a tiny amount, and it feels like it does the job. This is interesting, is that since it does so many things, including, you know, the soft focus effect and kind of minimizing the look of lines and that kind of thing, even men will use it. Like if they're having, you know, an important photo taken, you don't have to use foundation afterward. You can just use this just for the benefits that this alone has. So that's kind of interesting. So that's our primer. Easy peasy. All right, we're already moving on. So foundation, we're going to apply. We've got a few different ways that we can apply it. Foundation comes in either a powder, a liquid, a cream, you know, and a compact. So depending on the type that you have, you know, is going to determine how you're going to apply it, obviously. Tonight I'm going to be using a liquid foundation. I've just chosen to use what I use in my everyday life. So this is our Luminous Wear foundation. This is an age-fighting foundation, which is particularly cool in my opinion. So that not only is my skincare age-fighting, but the foundation that I have on my face all day is age-fighting as well. So your liquid foundation can be applied either just simply with your fingers, which is how I did it for years and years. Then brushes became really popular. Makeup artists, typically you'll see them using brushes. We had this brush is available for $14. It's not in the catalog, but it is on my website. This was discontinued recently, but until the company runs out, it will continue to be featured in the, you know, on the websites. It was replaced with this new style, and what's different about this style is that you apply the foundation right to the flat end of the brush, whereas previously you would apply the foundation to your hand and sort of dab the brush into that like as if it were a palette. Now you would put it right on the brush itself. So that's interesting. So those are a couple of different foundation brushes that are available. But since the Beauty Blender, that pink sponge, came on the scene, sponges are all the rage. And I agree, they're incredible. Just the finish that they leave is fantastic. Mary Kay has an awesome sponge. It is so dense that it will last and last. It has a nice point at the end so that you can get into really small areas. And then the large end is where you can just kind of stipple when you want to go to bigger areas of your face. Now, I only have one left in stock. So I'm not using that one. And I had already, before Mary Kay even came out with sponges, I had already acquired like this giant bag of these cheap, yucky orange sponges. So that's what I'm going to use today because that's what I use in my everyday life. But you'll still get the gist of what we're doing. So we're going to use the sponge so I can show you some application techniques with that. We want to apply the foundation. I'm using liquid foundation. I'm applying it to the back of my hand. I'm taking my sponge. Normally, you would wet the sponge and wring it out. That's if you want a sheer application. I actually like a heavier application. I like more coverage, so I don't wet it. I use it as is. I dab into what I have on my hand, and then I start stippling it all over my face. I want to show you a new way to do the under eye area, so I'm going to go everywhere except under my eyes. And I kind of do like the large areas, you know, like big sweeping areas first, and then fine tune it. And so I've heard it referred to lots of different ways, like, let's see, stippling is where you just kind of dab, 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 dab. I've heard rolling it on. I think that leaves a heavier deposit. You know, you can watch different videos or just kind of experiment with it yourself and see what feels good. But I think that it leaves the most when you, you know, when you're dabbing it. You don't want to just like be rubbing it. You want to be smearing it everywhere. You definitely want to like put it down, pick it up, as opposed to just moving it around. Does that make sense? So we're dabbing it all over. But you see how fast that was? Like I just picked it up and I just kind of went all around. And I'm really pretty much done, you know? We should not need to go on our neck if we have a color that works for us. Your neck is always going to be a little bit lighter than your face, but, okay. You want it to be like in the same color family, but there's just no way that this skin here is going to be the same shade as the skin that's exposed to the sun every day. But it should still, you know, work together. So you don't want to have to take this foundation all the way down to here, you know, so that it all matches. It should blend. By the time you get to your jawline, you know, it should be, you know, sort of fade in with what you got going on down on your neck. And if it doesn't, you probably have the wrong undertone. All right. So now already, just with that, I have enough coverage. Like I've covered up my freckles. I've almost completely covered up that blemish. This is a luminous wear, so it's a dewy finish, which I like because I have aging skin and I want to keep that luminosity to my skin, but I don't want to look shiny. So we will address that in a moment. Okay, I'm going to keep that sponge handy because I will come back to it. So, getting back to that under eye area, we have a couple of really cool products. Correct and Perfect. We have a correcting under eye corrector. It has sort of a pink or a salmon undertone. It's ideal if you have a purplish blue cast to the, you know, the bags under your eyes. It is going to really brighten this area, and then that opposed to our Perfecting Concealer, which is specifically for blemishes, shadowy areas, and things like that. My under eye area, more than anything, is shadowy. It's like there are, you know, crevices. And I find that with the concealer, that gives me enough brightness, and I just prefer how the concealer looks by itself more so than the under eye corrector. I've heard different things. I've heard people say to do the under eye corrector first, like one layer of that, let that dry, and then do a layer of concealer. I heard one makeup artist say that he mixes the two, like on the back of his hand, he'll mix the under eye corrector and the Perfecting Concealer and then put them on like a, you know, a mixture of the two. You know, so it's kind of whatever works for you. I have sold the under eye corrector, and people really do love it, especially if you have concerns about that. I'm going to do one each. So this is the under eye corrector. Sort of a pinky peachy color. This is the Perfecting Concealer. And then I'll also, I've got that blemish there. I've read to go around the outside of your nose, so I'm just going to do that. Really, anything that's shadowy you're supposed to do, so let's just do that and we'll go crazy. All right. And again, you want to break wide with your sponge. This is just like the best thing ever. Not this, but the sponge, the concept of the sponge. You're just stippling. When you use your finger, it's really hard to get the product to stay on your face instead of pulling off and staying on your finger. But with the sponge, it stays where you want it to stay. But here's what we want to be looking at. Well, I hope it's not so bright that you can't see what's happening here. But all right, so I did not put foundation under my eyes. I left that alone, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I can't really talk and do it at the same time. Okay. So we have the under eye corrector right here. Does that look any different to you? I can see it in this little mirror. I can see a difference. This one is up here so bright. I don't know if you are able to see it or not. I did take a before picture of myself, so I'll post a before and after so you can see. And then this has more yellow in it. This is the Perfecting Concealer. Okay, now I think I can concentrate enough to tell you why. The area under my eyes, and this is common as we mature, is crepey. And so I will put moisturizer under there, like an eye cream, to take away that crepey look, and I will achieve that. Then I'll put my foundation and my concealer and my powder and whatever, and then when I take a really close look again, it looks crepey again. So the more product I put on there, it kind of dries that area out. And so I recently read not to put your foundation in the orbital area, to leave that alone, and only put like your under eye, either concealer or corrector there, so that all you've got your eye cream and your concealer, and that's it, and that you won't get that crepey effect. And so I've been doing that for about a week or two, and so far so good. I think it does, work better for me. So it's just fun. I just love to try new things. Just no harm in trying. So this side I've got the concealer, and this side is the corrector. So I don't know that there's a difference as far as, if you can tell yellow versus pink, but I can tell a difference as far as brightening up that area for sure. Okay. Excellent. Now this part is super duper fun. Oh, and they're $16 and they last a super long time. All right. Now we're going to talk about the difference between setting and finishing. We have this awesome translucent loose powder. It is white because it is for all skin tones. When I first used it, I felt like I looked really white and I didn't like it, but I wasn't using it correctly. That's almost always the case. I use something and I don't like it, it's because I didn't do it right. This is meant to be used in small amounts, and it is both a setting and a finishing powder. So let's talk about the difference. To set something means to keep it in place. So we just put on our foundation. We want to set it. We want to put it so that it's not moving. But right now it's very emollient. Like in a sense, it could like be sliding, like how your eye makeup starts to smear or whatever, because everything on your skin right now has so much moisture. So we want to set it so that it stays, so that we have lasting power. That's the purpose of a setting powder or a setting spray. A finishing powder or a finishing spray has to do with the overall effect, sort of like when you paint a room. Is the finish glossy, matte, satin? Same idea. Do you want there to be, a matte or a luminous, that kind of a thing? What kind of finish do you want? So what's interesting about this is that it's both. So I'm going to show you, and this is just me, like really the company only shows one way of applying this, but I've got to be a little more complicated than that. I'm going to first use it as a setting spray, and then in a moment I'm going to show you how to use it or as a setting powder, and then I'll use it as a finishing powder. Okay, so for setting, I want to use a fairly dense brush. let's see, so I want to use my mineral powder brush. This is our new mineral powder brush. So it's fluffy, but it's the bristles are still fairly close together, so they're dense, and so it's different than the big all over brush, the big powder brush. I'm going to use my mineral powder brush from yesteryear, but it's the same idea. So you get enough on there, you know, you can see it, but it's not, you know, tons of it. And since we're setting the powder, we're like pressing it in. So I'm not like I'm pressing it in. I'm setting that powder. I'm going to start under my eyes because I really want to get that area to stay where I put it. I just talked about how we don't want that, you know, our liner and mascara running, which Mary Kay doesn't really run anyway, but just to be extra cautious. So I'm going to continue to do that all around. And this powder absorbs excess oil. It also has that really beautiful soft focus effect. It photographs really beautifully. What's super interesting to me is if it does look a little bit white at first, and sometimes it does, it actually continues to work its way into the molecules of your foundation, and like it will, you can, right before your eyes, you can see it go from white to not, you know, and it just kind of disappears. So I'm setting my foundation by just pressing this translucent powder in there. This is the Michelle Fox way of doing it. This is not necessarily, this is not condoned by Mary Kay. I'll show you how most people do it in a minute. So what's interesting to me is it takes the shine off, but there's still a luminosity there. It's still glowing. That's the ongoing struggle. We want to glow, but we don't want to look shiny and sweaty and greasy. Oh, the things we go through. So that is how I would apply it as a setting powder. I'll show you as a finishing powder in a quick moment. Now here is where, if I were doing any other kind of video, I would pause it real quick, put on my cheek color and bronzer and everything, then unpause it and show you the next step. But I don't really have that option, so just hold that thought. Pretend like you don't see this. But this does make me think of this, that it would be fun to do a tutorial on sculpting. So if that's something that you would like to do, you could comment on that. And the other thing I would like to do a tutorial on sometime would be just all kinds of stuff about the eye area, since that's my big issue right now. I've been reading so much about it. And so I feel like I could definitely teach on that area. Okay, ta-da. Okay, now unpause. Okay, so now we would take our large fluffy brush, the all over brush, and this is how most people use this kind of powder, where you kind of have a light dusting in there. You take your big fluffy brush, kind of swoosh it around, and then you just do like real light strokes down. This is more of a finishing. This is how you would apply it as a finishing powder. And the reason I would use it at this point would help just to blend my cheek color. Whoops, sorry about that. Help to blend my cheek color. Make sure that my bronzer and my cheek color work together and all that good stuff. All right, there we go. So I think that product is super cool. And I actually have a video, super short video, 5 other ways that you can use that translucent powder. So I'm posting that immediately after this, so you can learn about that. And now the creme de la creme. I do love a little hyperbole. The makeup finishing spray. I know I've talked about this, I've mentioned it before, and now you're going to see it in action. This is phenomenal, and I'm not joking. You might think it's overkill since we just did a setting and a finishing, but this just takes it to the next step. You know, the extra mile or whatever. It's incredible. Okay. I'll stop talking and I'm just gonna show you. All right, you shake it up. That's all you do. It's just like a spray, a light mist on your face. It dries. I kid you not, I put on my makeup at 6:30 in the morning, spray this on when I get home from the library, like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not joking. My makeup looks exactly the same as it looked in the morning. And I know the difference because when I first started working outside the home, that was my frustration. Like, gosh, I take the time to put on my makeup. By the time, I get home, it's all worn off. It looks terrible. What am I doing wrong? This is like magic. It is so incredible. And makeup artists swear by these types of sprays. It makes it keeps your makeup looking fresh for 16 hours. This will last so long. Let me see. It is $18. It's our makeup finishing spray by Skindinavia. Best $18 you ever spent. I absolutely love it. I guess it's one of those things you just have to try it to really see, what it does, to see what it does for yourself. So I'm going to take an after picture and then I'll post that because I think with these bright lights it's really hard for you to see, but I looked horrible before. This is covering my freckles, the blemish. It's kind of camouflaging my fine lines up here. I've got more of a lift. It's brighter. It just kind of takes I'm speechless. To me, foundation, when you're used to using it, and you don't use it, and you just throw on like mascara and lipstick and go, and you get a glimpse of yourself, you're just like, whoa. Like, it makes such a big difference. It really does. And once you get in the groove and you know how to put it on, it doesn't take that long, and it makes such a big difference. And you know what? It's not about vanity. It's just about feeling good about yourself and being your personal best. And, life is short. And I just want to... that's what I've concluded. It's not so much that I'm striving to be young forever. It's that I just want to be the best I can be as long as I can. And I want to extend that to you as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned a little something. If you have any other tips that you want to talk about, if you have ideas for future videos, let me know. If you'd like to purchase anything that we discussed today, you can get 10% off. And again, we're going to have a drawing for a free foundation of your choice. I think what we're going to do is probably have tutorials, maybe not every Tuesday, but probably on Tuesdays at either 8 or 9. Most likely 8. I wish 9 because I think more people are on later, but it's just that, it's just getting kind of late. So I don't know. But if you have thoughts on that, go ahead and comment on that as well. Okay? So that felt like it was fast. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no concept of time when I do these things. Thanks for watching, and bye.